Thank you guys for joining us here today on a new show, Football Fanatics. We do have some episodes out already if you haven't checked them out. You want to leave the link in the description for those videos as well. So we'll leave the link in the descriptions for those videos as well if you can't find them. Like I said, it's a new channel, so sometimes on YouTube it's harder to find even this video probably. But make sure to leave a like, subscribe, a new channel. We're trying to get better. And again, like usual, timestamps will be below in the description. So today with this video, we're going to go over the AFC North. We're trying out some new things here. In the other videos, we did the AFC East, NFC East in one video. Instead of making the longer videos, we're going to try doing one division at a time and shorter videos. Let us know if you like this better. So anyhow, with further ado, we will go over the AFC North, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Cleveland Browns. So let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll go to Eric first.
All right, I have the Steelers winning this division. I have them going 11-5. I really like what they did this offseason with the draft.
Yep.
The James Conner pick is awesome, gives them a great backup behind Le'Veon Bell. The Juju Smith pick is awesome, besides the fact that it made Martavis Bryant and Sammy Coates fight. But even so, he will probably end up taking over Sammy Coates. That's what I believe. He'll end up being the 3. Martavis Bryant, he's a great player coming back. My only issue with him is that he has off the field issues. So if something happens again, he could easily get suspended for a year again.
Yep.
Ben Roethlisberger has already come out in an interview saying that he needs to mature, and Martavis Bryant then shot back at him saying, I want to talk man-to-man. So, I mean, there's already issues there. Hopefully he can stay because he's a special player. He's a great wide receiver, too. Easily enhances that offense to the next level. So, I hope he can stay on the field this year. And then T.J. Watt was also a great pick.
First round,
yeah. I think James Harrison will help him and, teach him his, not his ways, but teach him the ways of the NFL, I guess. It'll give him an easier transition from college to the NFL when you have a pro like James Harrison there. So I do have them going 11-5. They'll probably be the second in this conference, probably behind the Patriots. But yeah, that's where I have them.
And going back to your Martavis Bryant thing, do you think the reason why they drafted Juju Smith-Schuster in the second round was a big reason of that, knowing that he's a liability?
I would say, yeah. I would say that they drafted him, one, because Sammy Coates had a dropping issue last year.
Yeah.
They probably knew they were going to lose Wheaton, and even though Wheaton isn't that good of a wide receiver, I think they knew that Martavis Bryant has off-the-field issues, so of course there's always the possibility of him getting suspended. So I think they drafted him as a just-in-case, but they also drafted him because they knew that he could overtake Sammy Coates. So he's going to be a good 3, and then possible 2 if Martavis Bryant ever slips up.
And again, I kind of mentioned this a lot, not in these videos necessarily, but out of these videos. So I'll mention it in these videos. Anytime you have the Patriots in your conference, you can never have enough weapons,
yeah.
Okay? So James will most likely get into the defense, so we'll go to you.
Yep, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers going 12-4 and winning their division. I mean, I really like their offense. They added some nice depth, like Eric mentioned, and Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner. But I'm really excited about a tight end that they have on their roster already, and Jesse James. I think he'll take over that Heath Miller role with the short routes and the big end zone production. And, I mean, their defense, it was all right last year. I mean, it needed some help, and I really like the T.J. Watt pick. If you're going to beat the Patriots, you have to rush the passer. I mean, you look at Denver's defense, what they did to him in Denver a couple years ago. I mean, and that's how you're going to beat
them. They got
the
Patriots out in the conference championship that year, so to move on to the Super Bowl, the Broncos. So, Stanley, talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I have them at 11-5, winning their division.
Okay.
I like the pickup of T.J. Watt. I mean, his brother's insane. He might follow in his footsteps and be great. But I think Ben Roethlisberger, he's retiring soon. So leave it all on the field. I mean, Le'Veon Bell has a thing to prove, being franchise tagged and all that. He wants to prove to other teams that he wants to be the top running back in the league. And that he can do anything that he wants and can please and can make a team win a game. And Ben Roethlisberger is going to be able to help with that and out routes and running back and all that.
And to add on to your franchise tag thing, I think that he probably doesn't want to go down the same route as Kirk Cousins, being franchise tagged twice now. So my record for the Pittsburgh Steelers is 13-3. See them being better than last year. I think that with the addition, I thought they had a very good draft. What was the quarterback's name they drafted late?
Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs. I thought that was a good addition. You get someone young who can develop behind Ben Roethlisberger, who's contemplating retirement and whatnot. So I like his role there. He obviously won't play, but just to develop him, get his foot in the water, feet in the water. So I like this team. I thought they had a very good draft. Again, I don't think they're going to be better than the Patriots, but I think they'll win the division and probably get to the conference championships like last year. I think it'll be the same story as last year with a better team, but not better than the Patriots. As they get better, the Patriots get even more better.
But
so
the Steelers can put up a fight now.
Steelers can put up a fight now. I mean, maybe now they lose by a touchdown or 3 points or something, but I just don't see that guy to put them over the hump like last year. Anything else you guys had on the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I do think that it's a two-man race in the NFC between the Steelers and the Patriots. I do believe that it will be a great game. They do have the potential to beat the Patriots. There are some dark horses in the AFC that could come out and beat out the Steelers for that conference championship game.
Yeah.
I do believe the Patriots are the one that are going to be in that conference championship game.
All right. We'll go on to the Baltimore Ravens next, which I'll say my record. I have them at 9-7 this year. I do think they'll be better than last year, but again, I don't think they'll be better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't even think they'll make the playoffs this year. In the NFL nowadays, I think the wild card, you're not going to make it 9-7. If you're like a division, like the Texans division, although they got better, I think you can slip in the playoffs with a 9-7 record. But wild card, I don't think so, and especially with the Steelers, who I have going 13-3. You guys had them going 12-4 and 11-5, so I think that, they won't make the playoffs over the Steelers. I did think they had a decent draft. I thought that, I think they've got a good roster, but not a good enough roster it's an average roster is what I'm trying to say. But it's a good enough roster to go over 500. I like their defense, but we'll head over to Eric now.
So I did like their draft. I thought Marlon Humphrey was a pretty good pick. They did need a corner, but I wish they did a little bit more towards the offensive side because their offense was really the issue. I think the draft kind of caught them as surprised with John Ross, Corey Davis, and Mike Williams all going within the top 10. And their offense, to me, is suspect. Their O-line isn't that good. Their quarterback, Joe Flacco, he's only decent. He's not good, he's not bad, but he's a decent quarterback. He has a very strong arm, can throw it long, but he's not always accurate at times. Their running backs are also very suspect. When you have Terrence West as your best one, as your pure runner. I get Danny Woodhead. I'm a Chargers fan. I love Danny Woodhead, but he's not a true wide receiver. He's more of a wide receiver type out of the backfield, which will help them because the Ravens last year were the number 3 team in throwing to their running backs. So, that will help them there. Kenneth Dixon being suspended 4 games will not help them.
Terrence West.
Once Kenneth Dixon comes back, they're both not pure runners. They're no Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, DeMarco Murray. They're no that type of running back. They're a halfway running back, I believe. I believe in this next draft coming up, that's probably when they'll go out and grab their running back. But I do love their defense, and that's the reason I have them going 7-9. Their defense will help them bring them to this average. They won't be bad. They'll be average. They'll be that 7-9 area. Tyrus Bowser they got in the draft, awesome. Terrell Suggs is good. Their defense just in general is a good defense. If you look at it, past few years they've been a good defense, and I believe that's what will bring them to the 7-9 record.
And I don't know if you mentioned it, but Jeremy Maclin is another guy who they also added, who's kind of like a Mike Wallace in itself. They have different play styles, but the speed comes into play with Joe Flacco's strong arm. A lot of people say they're going to be 10-6. I don't think Jeremy Maclin's a guy who will. I think he'll get them maybe a win or 2 more than last year, but he's not a guy who's going to make it so far that you're going to be in the playoffs. It's not that kind of move. So, I still have them going 9-7, even though you have them both. I have them 7-9. They still both have average records. So James, we'll go to you.
I have the Ravens going 7-9 and missing out on the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at the team, I really like their defense. They have some great pieces there. Tony Jefferson, they signed from Arizona.
Yeah.
Eric Weddle, Terrell Suggs, Brandon Williams, that big nose tackle. But when I look at their offense, I see below average, honestly. Joe Flacco, not an elite QB. If the only people who disagree with me are Raven fans. But I mean, he's a great postseason performer, but he's very average in the regular season, and I don't see any targets that really stand out. I mean, Macklin, he's solid, but he's past his prime. Same thing with Mike Wallace. I mean, very average team.
Yeah, and just to mention, none of us are hating on any teams. We're all giving fair analysis on these teams. So, Stanley, we'll go to your take.
I have them 8-8.
Okay.
I think the team's just average. I mean, you look at their offense, average. I mean, Joe Flacco, like they're saying, he's not elite. He's average in the regular season. Their defense has some key points, but they also have some bad points, so that cancels out an average. I mean, Eric Weddle, great safety, but they get rid of Elvis Duhamel. There goes their pass rush. They lose a pass rusher.
For real, yeah.
I don't see him doing good. I mean, Joe Flacco he's going downhill, I feel. I mean, his deep ball's not going to be there this year. They got some speed, but I mean, the dudes aren't 6'8", 6'10", jumping over everyone. They can't make plays like that.
Well, I don't think any receiver's going to be 6'8", 6'10", but...
Well, can make them in Madden.
Well, to make them Madden. Anyhow, I still think their defense will carry them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think their defense is great like the Broncos carrying Peyton Manning that year, but I think their defense is definitely the better side of the ball. I think you guys would all agree, right?
Yeah.
So, we'll go to the Cincinnati Bengals next, who I have... Actually, we'll go this way this time. Stanley, we'll start with you on the Bengals.
I have them at 9-7. I feel like they're going to do good this year, and they'll be fighting for a wild card. And I don't know if they'll get it or not. It all depends on how they play, because I know Andy Dalton is bipolar sometimes. He throws the ball weird. And you got A.J. Green. The dude's a beast. If he stays healthy, he will carry that team on his shoulders.
He's fantastic, yeah.
He'll bring the team the distance. Their defense is amazing. If they don't do illegal hits, if they don't blow up, I mean...
Do you think A.J. Green will be better now having John Ross to make him kind of have a solid number 2, so maybe the coverage will take it off so much on A.J. Green?
Well, it won't be double cover because the safeties will have to look for the vertical threat. I mean, A.J. Green is fast, but you have to watch for John Ross. The dude can sneak by a defense or just run the hills.
I really like the Bengals offense, but I'll talk about that when it comes my time. We'll go to James next.
When I look at the Bengals on paper, they have a really solid team. I mean, I don't see a lot of holes. I mean, when their 2015 draft pick, William Jackson's healthy, they'll have a great duo there with him and Pac-Man Jones. I mean, you got great linebackers like Vontaze Burfict, ball-hawking safeties George Iloka. You got great receivers, A.J. Green, John Ross, and even Brandon LaFell is your number 3 that's solid. 3 good running backs. I mean, there's not a lot of holes, but there's a big one with the head coach, Marvin Lewis. He's a horrible coach. That's being nice, honestly. But, I mean, you look how they imploded in that playoff game. They were down like 15-0, came back, and then fumbles. They pick it off, and a fumble, and then a illegal hit. So, I mean, yeah, they're not going to be good.
All right, Eric.
So, I agree with Stanley on them being 9-7 this year. I love their wide receiver corps. A.J. Green, I've loved him since he came out of college. John Ross, he can take defenses over the top. So that will help A.J. Green get off of double coverages because the safeties are going to have to watch John Ross going over the top. Brandon LaFell, I know Patriots fans probably won't agree with me, but he's still a decent wide receiver.
He's a decent wide receiver, yeah.
Eifert coming back, he barely played last season, only played a few games. Him coming back and being healthy this year, if he's healthy this year, will be an awesome addition to that offense. My main problem with them is their O-line. It is the 31st in the NFL per Pro Football Focus. So, I mean, and it makes sense. They lost 2 Pro Bowl offensive linemen to both the Rams and the Browns. So that makes sense. They're going to have 2 basically people who have never touched the field come in and try to take over for them. So, to me, 9-7 is where I have them. It's a perfect average thing. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Their defense is great. Wide receivers are great. Joe Mixon was an awesome addition. I believe he will be their starter this year with Giovanni Bernard.
Giovanni Bernard, yeah.
Being their pass catcher out of the backfield. I don't think Jeremy Hill will actually be on the team at the end of training camp.
I'm iffy about that.
I believe he will get cut. I mean, you're not going to keep 3 people there that could all potentially start And one of them's going to get angry. One of them's going to get mad they're not getting enough snaps. And I think Jeremy Hill's going to be the one that ends up getting cut.
You don't think they'll run 3 backs this year and give Mixon limited snaps this year until next year, maybe trade or cut one?
See, I was thinking that for a little while, but when I look at it, when they go into their preseason games, I think by the 3rd week they're going to see Mixon's a great starter. He can run this team. They're going to see Jeremy Hill as just kind of like a nuisance. Not
Even
a
with that
nuisance,
offensive line, you mean?
No, I still think Jeremy Hill will end up getting cut. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I believe he'll end up
But
getting cut.
he's a big back. He can get the touchdowns at like 5 yard
Yeah,
line.
like
He can
with,
run
I'm
through.
kind of iffy, you know.
So can Joe Mixon. Though.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon proved it in college that he's a big back and can do that.
But
Well,
he's a rookie, so they don't want to test
you
him.
have
now.
Giovanni Bernard. Giovanni Bernard's proven it before that he can run it too if they really need. So I mean,
Thing
you don't
about
need-
the
you don't need 3
NFL
people there.
too. Like I don't get a lot of times is like I see teams like cutting straight up a player. I mean, if you can at least get a 7th round pick, I mean he's at least worth a 7th round, if not a 5th or 6th.
Yeah, but you see,
And you just cut him straight up. I mean,
you see like the Jets, they try to trade Eric Decker. Most teams aren't going to trade for these people if they know they're going to get cut. Look at like most players like Jeremy Maclin, they try to trade for him.
but what the risk of that is, if you want him and there's another strong contender for that player, he might decide to go with them over you if he's cut. Because if he's cut, he can go anywhere.
That is true, but my thing is, I don't see many teams going out of their way to spend a 5th or a 6th round pick on Jeremy Hill. But this is just my opinion. I believe that Jeremy Hill won't be on the team come the start of the season. I think there's too many people there. I believe that Joe Mixon will show that he can carry this team or run the team. Giovanni Bernard will show that he's a viable backup, and Jeremy Hill will just end up being that guy that's just there.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be with a guy who just wants to be there. He likes being able to run his own show. So he's either going to ask for his release or they're just going to see that he's not happy there and they're going to release him.
I could even see the scenario where he's there until week 4 of the regular season, and then teams are going to start expressing more interest, saying maybe their back goes down and they're in actual contention at this time, and they don't want to lose a starting back and go from up here to down here. Maybe they get desperate and trade for a Jeremy Hill or a Giovanni Bernard and say, hey, you take a 3rd or 4th round pick here, maybe maybe not that high, but the value goes up a bit more. I could see that scenario happening as well.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see like a team is in like even in the preseason, like how when Teddy Bridgewater went down a year ago, they spent high capital to go get Sam Bradford, who I didn't think was that good of a quarterback. So I mean, I could see a team in the preseason, their running back goes down to injury, maybe he's out till like week 8. They spend high capital to go grab Jeremy Hill because they don't think their backup's good enough. So I could see that.
Yeah. My take on the Bengals. See, it's funny because in free agency, I didn't think Kirkpatrick was a great move. I thought they overpaid him and whatnot, but I thought I would have put them at 5-11, 6-10 around there during free agency. Right now, I've got them at 8-8 with upside to be 9-7. Kind of I think they'll be 8-8, but they could be 9-7. So. With the additions of Ross and Mixon, I mean, you got some really good wide receivers now. Mixon being running back, but Ross being a wide receiver. Right now, you've got Brandon LaFell probably as your number 4, maybe. Tyler Boyd's there, probably as your number 3. You've got Ross and you've got A.J. Green now. 4 very good wide receivers along with Tyler Eifert. And Tyler Croft had a pretty decent year last year. You got some really good weapons. And now with 3 good running backs, we just talked about Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard, so I won't go back into that. So with a good quarterback, and I'm really a big fan of that offense. It's just something about that Bengals. They could have a very good roster, but something about them just puts them at that mediocre. I think they have some holes in their defense, maybe in the safeties, but you look at the film and you just see kind of some missed plays on the defense. They got big names, but sometimes they'll just let up a big play. And against the Redskins last year, it just felt like they were winning that whole game. And then you looked at the scoreboard, it's a tied game, and the game ended up being a tie after the overtime. It just seemed like every time they were winning, like they'll get an interception or something, but they couldn't score on the other end. I think they filled a lot of needs going with Ross and Mixon here, so big fan with that. Anybody else got anything else on the Bengals? I thought we covered them pretty good. So for the last team in the AFC North, we've got the Cleveland Browns. Let's get James starting with this one.
Wow. I mean, I see a nice improvement from going to 1-15 to 4-12. I mean, I love their offensive line now. they got J.C. Tretter from the Packers. They got Kevin Zeitler.
Yeah.
Added to Joe Thomas
Mm-hmm.
there already. I mean, now they should have somewhat of a running game with Isaiah Crowell and Duke Johnson.
And they have Joel Bitonio too, right?
Yeah. On that stacked O-line now.
Yeah.
Could compete with the Cowboys as one of the best in the league. I mean,
Packers, Steelers, Raiders around there, yeah.
I mean, Cody Kessler did pretty well when he got the chance, but because that offensive line was so bad last year, he got banged up, and that wasn't good for them. I mean, Kenny Britt, adding him was a huge signing.
Yep.
And, I mean, David Njoku out of Miami, I believe it is.
Yep, Miami.
A great athletic tight end. And I think Joe Hayden's going to have a big comeback year. I mean, he's been injured a lot, and he's finally healthy, so, you can see a potential trade for him with a contender down the stretch. But, yeah.
Back to your Kenny Britt thing, do you think even with, I like the Kenny Britt addition as well, but even with Kenny Britt, do you think they still should have brought back Terrell Pryor?
Oh, yeah, Terrell Pryor is like a true number one.
Yeah.
Kenny Britt's a solid player, but he's a number 2 or 3. So, yeah.
Okay, I agree with that. We'll go to Stanley next.
I have them at 3-13. I feel like their offensive line and defense will carry them. I mean, their defensive line's going to do good. Myles Garrett, he's going to explode. And, I mean, their offensive line's stacked. I mean, who's going to touch their QB now?
Yeah.
Hardly no one. I mean, Joe Thomas is going to take most of them under their wing. The dude was like 48 years old. He's been in the league forever. He's an insane offensive lineman.
Yeah. He's one of the best. He's a Pro Bowler like every single year. So, I'll go next and we'll end with you on the Browns. So, I kind of want to get into the draft a little bit. Actually, I want to talk about Cody Kessler a little bit first. Like you said, the offensive line was bad last year, but even with that bad offensive line, it seemed like he didn't throw a lot of interceptions. And he didn't throw a lot of touchdowns, but he didn't throw a lot of interceptions, and that shows me upside. With the Browns, you can come up with 100 different excuses why he didn't get the touchdowns. But he didn't throw interceptions, which was good. And to me, if the Browns quarterback doesn't throw interceptions, doesn't turn over the ball a lot, it'll give the offense some more opportunities. And I like that. I think Cody Kessler, I've been going back and forth between him and Kaiser. I think Kaiser should sit back kind of, but at the same time, it's back and forth between them. I would like to see Kessler get another chance. I don't think he did anything bad to just say, here, sit down. So I think he should get another opportunity, see what he's worth behind an improved offensive line. So, and one last thing, I just want to talk about the draft real quick. They got, and we can talk about it as a whole, Myles Garrett was number 1. You wouldn't have done anything else there at the number 1 pick. You got Jabril Peppers. Okay, he's had missed tackle problems, but he's an athletic guy. He's a good returner. I think it's a solid pick. I know there's, the haters, and I know there's definitely. Did you have something about him?
It could be like a Josh Cribbs for them a couple years ago. Dynamic punt and kick returner. I mean, that could get him 3 or 4 wins just by his return skills. So. And
I think he can develop the tackling. His athleticism. There's a difference between athleticism. You can be really athletic, and you can be more athletic than a guy who's, what I'm going to bring up now, an NFL athleticism. Yeah. You can be more athletic with just athleticism than an NFL athleticism guy, but there's a difference between athleticism and NFL athleticism. This guy to me has NFL athleticism to me, who, which makes me think he can turn into a better tackler and can really be a hard hitter, like a Calvin Pryor who's also on the team now, or who was the Raiders guy they drafted again last year?
Oh, Carl Joseph.
Carl Joseph, yes, that's the name I was thinking of. Hard hitters like that, who I think he can develop into. And then they got David Njoku, who you talked about out of Miami. They cut Gary Barnidge, so, good addition there. They got Deshaun Kaiser in the second round. They also got Caleb Brantley, who I thought was a steal in the later rounds. Obviously, he has his off-field issues, but still, I thought he was like a second-round talent. Yeah. They got later rounds. So I still have them going 3-13. Again, no disrespect to the Browns fans and the organization. I think they'll be good in like 5-6 years, like playoff material, perennial playoff material. And but this year I have them 3-13, which is better than their 1-15 record last year. I think Kessler should start. I think you should let Kaiser sit back. Maybe start him at the very end of the season. But we'll go to Eric.
So I also am going 3-13, and I wanted to put him higher. My team was the only team to lose to him last year. So I mean, I wanted to put him higher, but I think it's the thing where it's like you have to see the Browns improve one year to finally just put them over that hump and actually put them higher. I have them as 3-13. I love what they did with Myles Garrett. I thought that they were going to be stupid and take Trubisky. Or, I mean, I wouldn't have minded Solomon Thomas, but Myles Garrett's a better talent. So I'm happy they went with him. Jabril Peppers, to me, I've never really liked Jabril Peppers because I always thought he was decent at every single position, but he wasn't a star at one position. But they took him in the later rounds, or not later rounds, but later in the first. So that doesn't make me as mad at them, I guess. David Njoku is a great pick. I thought Gary Barnidge had kind of run his course with the Browns. And David Njoku, he's a very athletic.
And he was older, Gary Barnidge, so you're trying to get younger. I think Njoku was a great replacement.
Njoku should help that offense a little bit. My big problem and the reason I am at 3-13 is you guys like Cody Kessler. I don't. I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. Yes, their O-line is fantastic, and I think the reason I give them 3 wins is because that O-line and that run game should be fantastic. My problem with them is that they have Kenny Britt as their number 1, Corey Coleman, who's already proven that he's, I wouldn't say injury prone, but his first year he was hurt for a while. This year it's already come out of camp that he has hamstring tightness. So, and hamstring, throughout the year will linger. So to me that's a little scary, mostly that he's your 2, and that your 3 is Rashad Higgins.
Yeah.
An unproven guy who hasn't done anything in the NFL. So, to me, that's where I knocked them a lot. I like their defense, and on paper, they look like a good team. But again, I think it's the scariness of they haven't gone 6-10 in a couple years. They haven't gone 8-8 in a couple years. I think I'd have to see them do that. Like, if they went 8-8 this year, I think then next year we could finally project them to do that. But until they do that, you have to project them going 3-13.
So you don't think they're not the team to take a big leap from a 3-12 or a 4-12 season to a 10-6 season? You think they're gonna have to progress record wise?
I think from a projection analyst standpoint, you'd have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Because they just constantly year after year underperformed from what their talent on their team has looked like. And this year they have a lot of talent. But the wide receiver and quarterback positions are the points that I'm so scared about. And this league is a passing league.
Yes.
You need that. And when you have Kenny Britt as your number 1, who really, he's a number 2 wide receiver at best. Corey Coleman, who I think could be good. He's just already hitting that injury bug. And then Rashad Higgins, you need a better 3 than Rashad Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see a better wide. That's why when Decker and Macklin got cut, I would love to have seen one of them sign with the Browns.
Yes.
That would have been awesome. But they didn't. And that's why I knocked the Browns down to 3-13.
And unless you guys have anything else, I had one more thing to say. I'm very happy because this team used to be a laughing stock, okay? But now it seems like players are actually willing to play for this team. See, all these offensive linemen wanted to come here. And even Terrell Pryor, who went to the Redskins, he publicly said during the season, I want to return to Cleveland. Kenny Britt wanted to come here. A couple years ago, you wouldn't have seen that. They kept building through the draft, and rightfully so, but they had the first, top 5 picks every year, so rightfully so. But, now free agents seem to want to come here. And one other thing with Cody Kessler, too, I know I really like him, but to play devil's advocate, again, with you, he'll only get them 3 wins or so because I think he's almost I mentioned how he didn't throw a lot of interceptions, but there's a reason for it. He's almost too safe of a quarterback. He won't take risks with some throws, and which will lead to 4th down very quickly. So that's my take on that. Is there anything else on any team that you wanted to mention real quick? All right, I think we covered everything pretty good. So like I said before, leave a like, subscribe if you can. And this was the AFC North, sorry. And thank you guys for joining.